Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel you come from. You da you and me da me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
Rene Villanueva has been in the broadcasting industry for more than 50 years. During that time, he has contributed significantly to the media landscape. As Love FM is heading into its 30th year of service to Belize, Chief, as he is affectionately known, sat down with Tyler Hamilton and Tameen Utley to share his dreams and some of the lessons he learned along the way.
Shell V Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited project became a reality because Belizeans believed in the project and invested in its development, construction, and implementation. Equity financing for the project featured investments from local enterprises as well as one foreign investor. The public-private partnership structure of the project facilitated government's ownership of a 25% stake at no cost to the taxpayers. Debt financing for the project featured the successful launch of Belize's first ever project bonds, some $30 million financed by a cross-section of institutional investors. Investments came from credit unions, notably St. Francis Xavier Credit Union and Holy Redeemer Credit Union, insurance companies, pension funds, and commercial banks. In addition, the project managed to successfully secure some $12 million in debt financing from the IDB Invest. The IDB's participation in this debt financing is a testament to their belief in the environmental, social, and governance principles taken on by the developers of this project. This project is a testament to the growth and development of Belize's financial system. It shows confidence of Belizean investors to put their money behind homegrown and developed projects that contribute to our national development. I am proud of this project and I'm hopeful that there are many more like it to come.
The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel.
My name is Tameen Utley,
My name is Tyler Hamilton.
and today we were honored to interview Dr. Rene Villanueva, the CEO of RSV Limited.
So, Uncle Rene, why
Yes, Tyler.
do they call you Chief?
Chief?
Because when I walk around a lot, I always hear they refer to you as Chief, Chief. So why do they call you by that?
Well, it comes from the fact that from 1983 until 1990, I was the chief broadcasting officer of the country of Belize. Radio at that time was a department. It was the Department of Broadcasting. And as the Department of Broadcasting, it was headed by a chief broadcasting officer, Now, most in those days, and I think today they still call most of the heads of department chief. The chief immigration officer, the chief customs officer, the chief education officer, the chief broadcasting officer, the chief information officer. But broadcasting, because it's always in the public's eye and ear, somehow the chief broadcasting officer is perhaps most the most public of all those figures that I just mentioned, those chief figures that I mentioned, the chief statistician, the chief, it's just the heads of government departments are usually called the chief, and so everyone, at the radio station will call me chief, and so whenever they are on air, then and they were referring to me, instead of calling by my name, they said, well, the chief said so and so, the chief said so and so, and because the public hear so much about this particular chief, then the name sticks. Whenever you walk, why chief, and everybody starts calling you chief, because of that.
Okay, so Mr. Villanueva, let's talk a little bit more about how you led up to being called chief and owning this company. You were born in Belize, but you moved to Honduras at the age of 8. What inspiration did you get from moving to Honduras?
Well, when I moved to Honduras, it was because my mother heard a call from God to go and help her father, who was a Methodist minister in charge of the Methodist work in Honduras, on the north coast of Honduras. It was a Methodist church in the Belize, Honduras district. And so my grandfather worked for 36 years on his own, worked for 36 years on his own in Honduras, but he was getting old, and my mother felt that she had to go and help her father.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so she packed up, she heeded God's call, and she packed all her children up and took us to Honduras. I was about 8 or 9 years old at the time. Prior to that, we were growing up at number 33 Freetong Road in Belize City. I was born on the 1st of April, All Fool's Day, in the year 1950. Actually, I smile because when I say the year 1950, it is the same year that Belize's movement to independence started. But I was born 1st of April 1950 at number 19 Tiger Street at the nursing home of Nurse Anita Otley, who was a good friend of my mother. My mother was a nurse. My mother was Nurse Helen Elliott Villanueva. My mother was a nurse in several parts of the country, San Antonio, in the Toledo district notably, and also in Placencia and St. Bite. She was the first rural health nurse sent to Placencia and St. Bite, and that's where she met my father. So we grew up, and my father was Arthur Villanueva, a fisherman from Placencia. So we grew up, like I said, until 8 at number 33 Freetong Road, and then we went on to Honduras, where the life change, the changing experiences took place that led me to where I am. But in between those years, coming up to where I am, I would come to Belize on holiday. So it wasn't always just Honduras. It was like, for example, when Hurricane Hattie hit, at the time, and I was 11 years old, I was going to Westlake College I was in 2A, which was equivalent to Standard 6.
Okay.
Basically, because they had a prep class. And so before I went into the first year of high school, and I was 11 years old when Hurricane Hattie hit, and I was in Belize for Hurricane Hattie. So we kept going up and down, and when I was 13, then I decided, 14, I decided I wanted to stay in Honduras. Okay. 13, 14, I decided I wanted to stay in Honduras and not to come back to Belize. And then we came back when I was 14 years old, and it was a Christmas Eve when I took a card to my godfather, was George McKeesey. I don't know if you have heard about George McKeesey. Have you guys?
No.
I still play his stories on Love FM today. He was my godfather. He was a very prominent announcer at the time, one of the best on Radio Belize. And so Christmas Eve, at age 14, I took him a Christmas card, and he showed me around the radio station. And I looked at that operation he showed me, and the following days before I went back to Honduras, I would go and sit in front of the Albert Catus building and memorize and play back in my mind what my godfather showed me. And I would tell myself, one day I want to work there. One day I'd like to work there. One day I'm going to work there at a firm. One day I will work there. Now, that was very unlikely to happen. But I believed it would. Against all odds, I believed it would. I went back to Honduras, and I got a job at age 15 as a young messenger boy, collecting bills and what have you. And ironically, the place I worked for was Agencia La Curaçao. Now you go to Court Store in Belize, right? You know who are the owners of Agencia of Courts? Agencia La Curaçao. so it's a startup business set up like Courts is, right? And I worked there as a messenger, and then I was listening to this Spanish station, had one English program. La Voz del Atlántico had one English program, and a gentleman by the name of Miguel Ángel Recarte, Mike Recarte, presented that program. I was fascinated by the fact that this was this one English program, and I went to meet Miguel Recarte. And when I met Miguel Recarte, he said, "Come," and he put me on the air the same day to read requests, right? And I was nervous. I mean, I don't know how you, I was nervous that my hands were shaking. I was looking at the paper and my hands shaking like that, and I kept reading, you know. And when it was over, the ordeal was over, I told him, "Can I come back tomorrow?" And he says, "Yeah." So I went back the following day, and I kept going back. Then I got my mother to sponsor a program, a religious show for half an hour on the same radio station, which I would present, and what have you. And so there was a vacancy for a technical operator at La Voz del Atlántico. I applied, I got that job. And then my mother said, "Okay, son, you got to be a preacher like your grandfather and me." And so she enrolled me in Bible school in the capital city of Honduras, Tegucigalpa. I didn't mind because there was a radio station that the high school had, named La Voz Evangélica de Honduras. And so I thought I would get a job there. As a matter of fact, I'd already visited that radio station and everything. So I said, "Okay, I'm going there," right? You know. But she, before going to school in January, she brought us to Belize to spend holiday with the family, right? My mother was very brave, you know. My mother brought us across in a sailing boat, right? Came across from Puerto Cortes in a sailing boat, high up in the Gulf, anyway, but we arrived safely in Placencia, and it was between Placencia and Belize City that I felt I was lying down looking in the water, and the waves were parting from the boat bow. You know, I was lying down on the front of the boat looking down in the water, and a voice inside me said, "Don't go back to Honduras, stay in Belize." And I said, "Okay." I told my mother what I had experienced, what I felt I had experienced, and she said, "Your future is made in Honduras." I said, "But I don't feel now the call to go back to Honduras. I want to stay in my country, Belize. I want to help build my country, Belize." And so she said, "Okay, let's pray about it." And then after we prayed, I came up with a bright idea that if I get a job in Belize, I would stay, and if I didn't get a job, then I would go back. You know, as I got the job, it was God's will that I stay. If I did not get the job, it's God's will that I go back.
So you were at a crossroads, really. You were at a crossroads, trying to...
Yeah. And I tell you what, I got the courage at age 17 to go and see then Premier, before independence. We weren't independent yet. They're talking about 1968, January, after the New Year's holiday. I got the courage to go and see Premier George Price, right? My cousin Bud Patico went with me. He stayed in the lobby, Premier Price's office lobby, and I went inside the office to talk to the Premier. Now, the conversation, you want to hear the conversation?
You can summarize it, because it's very interesting. You had the courage to go there at 17.
Yeah. I looked at Premier Price and I said, "Premier, I am looking for a job in the building." After he asked who I am, you know, and I said I was Rene. "I'm looking for a job in the building of the new Belizean nation." And he says, "What sort of job you're looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for a job in the building of the new capital, because at the time they were building Belmont Pan.
Okay.
And I dared not ask for a job at Radio Belize, because Radio Belize announcers were trained at the BBC. They spoke beautiful English. And I didn't think I qualified to even say, well, give me a job at Radio Belize. So I said the building of the capital. So he says, you don't look like anybody that knows to do construction work. You're just a young boy. And what were you doing in Honduras? And I said, I was working at this little radio station in Atlantico. And I took out my credential card from the radio station, my ID card, and I put it across to him, and I was working at this little radio station in Atlantico. Then he looks at it and he says, oh, Radio Belize needs a temporary Spanish continuity announcer. You think you can handle that? You think I said?
Yes.
No, I said,
Of course.
no, I didn't say of course right away. I was nervous. I said, I'm a good technical operator. You don't have a technical job. You know, that kind of thing there. And he said, no, that's all I got. And he calls across the acting chief at the time, the acting chief broadcasting officer, which eventually became the acting chief broadcasting officer, and he introduces me to him and says, I know you need a Spanish continuity announcer now, but see if this one will work, and he pushes us through the door. I went to an interview, now going up there for the second time, nervous, trembling. I did the English script. They gave me the English script to read behind the microphone, and when I lifted my face, I can still see today as I'm speaking to you, everybody was laughing at me. When I say laugh, then they laugh. Right? You could see them hiding there. They don't want me to see them laughing, but I mean, having worked at a radio station before, I was very familiar looking up what it is to look up and look at people. And so they were laughing. Then they gave me the Spanish, and I read the Spanish script. Now, when I finished the Spanish script, there was no laughing at all. Everybody was like, okay, who you? Where you blew from? You could see that look on the face. It was like night and day. Change in the reaction. Yeah, in the reaction, right? And when I came out, it was the great Eddie Coleman. You don't know if you know him, I'll have to do a whole show on him. But he was one of the most prominent broadcasters of all times, right? And he called me once and he said, young man, let me tell you something. Your English, awful. He said, but your Spanish is what we're looking for. He said, and let me tell you something, you have a great voice, and I can see the talent in you. You'll be a great broadcaster one day, I can see. I said, thank you, sir, and I went home. I came back for the results, and the acting chief broadcasting officer told me the same thing. And Lester Young, he said, young man, you failed the English, but you passed the Spanish with flying colors. So the job is yours at $15 a week. Do you accept? I said, of course, sir. And so I went home and told my mother, God has spoken. And that's how I stayed here, and that's how the career that led to Love FM actually started.
It really shows that it's all God's will, because if your mother didn't have that call to go to Honduras to repair father, your Spanish wouldn't be as good as it is right now. So everything really was aligned for you.
You're right. You know, everything works for good, for a reason. You know, my mother did a great job over in Honduras, helping her father. She was needed at that time because he was getting old. And she stayed on in Honduras on her own for about 26 years, I think, working in different areas as a pastor. Then she became a member of the Bible Society in Honduras, and the Bible Society in Honduras sent her to Belize, back to Belize now as a grown-up person, back home, to form the Bible Society in Belize. So the Bible Society in Belize was founded by my mother, right? And it's still on today. I think now it's not managed by Honduras, it's managed by Jamaica. I think they switched the management. But she is the one that started the Bible Society in Belize. You know? So she went on to do great things herself. Yeah.
With that, what technically inspired you to start Love FM itself?
Well, I'll have to give you the background that led to the starting of Love FM so you can understand fully why Love FM and how it came into being, right? You know, was not happy being a technical assistant grade 2, which is what I became permanently after being the Spanish temporary continuity announcer to become permanent on the permanent establishment of government. I became a technical assistant grade 2, which was basically what I was doing at La Voz del Atlantico full-time as well. So I was qualified for that. But I always wanted more. I always set goals. From I was a child, I can always remember setting goals. I cannot ever think of a stage in my life that I have not set a goal. And so from I was 7 years old, playing around with my record player my grandfather gave me and playing records, I thought I would want to have my own radio station. That was my ultimate goal in life. Now, how it would happen, I had no idea. No idea. But I knew that that is what I wanted in my life, to own my own radio station. So all the time now that I'm at Radio Belize now and you're getting closer, I kept learning whatever there was to learn. You know, I did not look at what I was being paid. Right? But I just learned everybody's job. You know, and fill in for them whenever I could and that sort of thing. So some years later, there was a vacancy for a full-time now announcer with the government service. Okay. Right? You know, because you had the two things. I was hired on open board, what was known as open board. I became a technical assistant grade 2 on the permanent establishment. So the upward career had to be on the permanent establishment. Right? So there was this vacancy for a full-time announcer on the permanent establishment, bilingual announcer. And I applied, obviously, and I got it. One of the conditions was that I slow down a bit on my Spanish, I think, or improve a bit on my English or something. But anyway, I got the job, and well, which I addressed those concerns. And the following year, just like the others, in 1974, at age 24, I was off studying in the BBC in London, right? Studying broadcasting at the BBC, radio broadcasting, which was perhaps one of the major eye-openers for me as to how to really broadcast and what broadcasting was all about. So I spent my time at the BBC, came back, started the first correspondent network in Belize, people reporting. And then I set another goal. And I said by the time I'm 30, I'm supposed to be either having my own business or a senior person here at Radio Belize. There was no way I could get promotion without studying. Yeah. So I took my first supervisory management course on my own. I paid for it out of my salary. 5 of them, got the 5 certificates and then the diploma. And went on to be promoted then to assistant program organizer. So I got to step up. And then I started my own business. I started a record shop with my brother, known as Music World, Your World of Music. Then I started, then I left in 1980. 1979, there were elections, minister change. And 1980, I had a good friend by the name of Francis Keg. He's still my friend. And he had just come. His father owned the Vogue Limited, which was one of the biggest businesses in Belize. I think it was about the third or so largest store in Belize, or retail organization. And I got a job there as marketing manager. Right? So I learned private sector management there at the Vogue Limited for 3 years, but 2.5 years to be exact. Okay. You know? Started, while I was there, started my own business, another business, Super B, Belize's finest burgers. I was selling burgers, came up with my own burger recipe. Started Super B1, Super B2, then Super B3, and then was building Super B4. Then, so it was successful, right? Or else I wouldn't be building 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
right? And so I had that private sector managerial experience with me. But by 1983, 82, early 82, 83, the government was looking for a chief broadcasting officer. All right? And I think this takes me back to your first question.
Yes.
The chief, right? The country was looking for a chief broadcasting officer. And so I applied. I was told I had to sell my businesses, my private businesses. So I did that. I sold them. I almost gave them away. Right? But I wanted to get back into radio broadcasting because that was what is consistent with my dream. My dream was not to be known as the burger man or the man that sells the most records or whatever. My dream was to be known as a broadcaster. Right? So I had to get back to Radio Belize. I had to drop my private business, which were very lucrative.
That took a lot of courage.
Right?
Yes.
I just got rid of them, because I couldn't have that and be the chief. And Radio Belize at the time was almost down on its knees. Right? There was no, most of the important people had left. It was just after independence. They had the heads of agreement. They had all kind of, which will have to be subject of another show. But the station was done. Right? I don't think they even had an engineer, a full-time engineer. So it's against that backdrop that I went back into it, right? And took it over, and by the first year, the permanent secretary, who was would be my immediate boss, he has to write a report to confirm whether I had performed well or if I'll be staying or not. And he says, let me discuss this report right in front of you. See what I've written here? Right? And he wrote a glowing report about me, and he ended it saying, Mr. Villanueva has single-handedly turned the broadcasting department around. So it was a glowing report, And the motherfucking minister used to tell me, he said, I don't want to lose you. I said, yeah, I will. And so the elections came, and in elections usually they change people like chief broadcasting officer and chief information officer, and certain people in the government usually change. So when the elections came in 1984 now, I packed up my box and I was ready to leave. Remember, my dream is consistent to my own radio station, so all this is happening on the road to my own radio station, right? I packed up my box, was ready to leave, right? The government at the time, the UDP under the Right Honorable Dr. Samuel Esquivel, who just passed away, and may he rest in peace, was a good man, that the UDP government investigated me, and then they said they couldn't find any grounds. As a matter of fact, the Minister of Broadcasting, the late Honorable Corey Thompson, who was Deputy Prime Minister at the time, came in and he said, my colleagues in Cabinet want me to fire you, but I'm a fair man and I have checked and I cannot find any grounds on which to fire you. So I need to ask you, are you willing to work for this new government? And I said, okay, I'm a professional. And in short, sir, I did not vote for your party, as you know, but as a professional, I will do my job, and yes, I'll work for your new government. He said, but if I catch you double-crossing the government, I said, yeah, that won't happen, because there's only one thing I have which I will not part with, and that's my integrity. I cannot work for you and betray you at the same time. Right? If I still work for you, I'll work for you. Right?
When we come back, Villanueva shares some of the challenges he faced on the way to reaching his goals.
The National Gas Company, fueling Belize forward. The National Gas Company makes sure that you not only have a guaranteed supply of gas for every household need, but also that it is of the highest quality at all times. Shell Belize has been fueling Belize for many, many years, and they have done that reliably and with a lot of dependability. DeBarry stores in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio, Orange Walk, and San Pedro, offering you much more for much less. Dibari. Shell V Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction reducing molecules. Go well, go Shell.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited project became a reality because Belizeans believed in the project and invested in its development, construction, and implementation. Equity financing for the project featured investments from local enterprises as well as one foreign investor. The public-private partnership structure of the project facilitated government's ownership of a 25% stake at no cost to the taxpayers. Debt financing for the project featured the successful launch of Belize's first ever project bonds, some $30 million financed by a cross-section of institutional investors. Investments came from credit unions, notably St. Francis Xavier Credit Union and Holy Redeemer Credit Union, insurance companies, pension funds, and commercial banks. In addition, the project managed to successfully secure some $12 million in debt financing from the IDB Invest. The IDB's participation in this debt financing is a testament to their belief in the environmental, social, and governance principles taken on by the developers of this project. This project is a testament to the growth and development of Belize's financial system. It shows confidence of Belizean investors to put their money behind homegrown and developed projects that contribute to our national development. I am proud of this project and I'm hopeful that there are many more like it to come.
The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the Jewish.
So I work professionally for the UDP government. My friends, our former friends in the PUP, don't vex with me because I'm getting no secret. I don't know gas no more. But I'm doing my job, you know. And so they turned against me, and so I started refuge with the UDP, and we were okay. I work, you know, because politically I'm being, you know, by my friends. So it was fine, you know. Anyway, 80 time come and PUP win. Right?
So you don't really expect that you might lose your job.
Of course, I was habit in writing. You know, so I said, okay, and I pack up my things again.
For the second time.
Second time, yes, for the second time, pack up my things again, right? And I had to leave backside right next to my desk, and I had to wait for the car, man. That's how you feel.
I'm gonna be like, well, you know, I served 2 terms. Time for go now.
Yeah, well, I was ready, but you see, the responsible thing is not just to walk out. You're waiting, and they know you can send home anytime, right? I expect to be sent home. I'm a 107.1 public office. I mean, I'm appointed under section 107.1 of the Constitution of Belize at the time. So, I met Said Musa, Right Honorable Said Musa became, at the time he was Minister of Education and Broadcasting and Sports. And I met him at a basketball game, and he looks at me and he says, I don't have time to get to the department yet, but I need 2 things done immediately. And I said, what are those, Minister? He said, change back the name from Belize Radio 1 to Radio Belize. I said, that's no problem. You're the minister, you set the policies. You see, I understood the hierarchy, you know, the minister, the permanent secretary, you know, okay, I understand that. So you'll have your name changed. Put on back the national prayer, of course. That's your over. Let's do that. And and in my manifesto, we said we're going to do one broadcasting corporation. You know anything about that? I said, that's no problem neither. He said, I mean, no problem. I said, I already advised the previous government to do what you have in your manifesto. They said they would have done it if they did not win, if they won these elections, but they did not win, you won. Now, what that means is that the Department of Broadcasting will be taken out of the direct government control and placed in the hands of a statutory body made up of citizens. So it meant freeing up the radio station for the first time. The government radio station airways for the first time. Right? That's what that paper meant.
Okay.
Right? And I wrote it, like I said, 3 years before the election, because, and what inspired me to write it was the fact that when the UDP had won in 1984, they said they would free Radio Belize, and so as the chief broadcasting officer, I had to advise government on how to go about doing what the manifesto says. You know, and so that paper was written for that. And they said they would have eliminated it. I won the next election, so but they didn't win, right? So this is the same paper I took and I gave the PUP, right? And it's the same paper that formed the basis and the groundwork for the Broadcasting Corporation of Belize. But I was still waiting to be fired. One day in my office, my phone rang, and Prime Minister George Price calls me out to his office, and he says, Rene, you know we're doing this Broadcasting Corporation? I said, yes, Prime Minister. Are you willing to work with us in creating this Broadcasting Corporation? And my answer was simple. If I did not believe in the freedom of the airwaves, I would not have written the thing in the first place, so yeah. And then I have to give credit to the Right Honorable Said Musa. He did a wonderful job in spearheading the freedom of the radio station. A job that I think is unique in the Caribbean. You know, of course I provided the technical advice, but he was the man who put the political will and the political clout and you know, made it as free and freer than anything else in the Caribbean, right? So we need to sometimes, we should at all times give credit where credit is due. So he deserves that credit, right? And we, like I said, created the BCB. I became its first general manager. But as you know how things go, all of a sudden now we could say the opposition did this, the opposition did that, the leader of the opposition said this, the leader of the opposition said that, you know, and the government is saying, but hey, we are paying for this thing, but it's talking about the opposition a bit too much here. You know? And you start to get pressure, that kind of pressure, right? And so you get that kind of pressure because they feel like, okay, you still belong to that party there, and you're still a UDP, you're still on this, you're still on that. And my thing is, no. The freedom of information it should flow, right? Anyway, towards the end of the contract, I got a 2-year contract, and towards the end of the contract now, they made life difficult for me by changing chairman and putting a chairman with the intention, chairman, you go with a holiday, you know? But obviously while the contract was still on, it was difficult because I know my stuff. So, you know, I remember one time I drafted, life was made so difficult, I drafted my resignation and gave it. I was almost going to give it in when I called a meeting with my senior staff, and they said, no, let's fight this thing. I said, okay, let's fight. For your sake, I'll fight. I fought and I won. Sorry. I fought and I won. And but the contract was coming to an end, and the chairman said that they will advertise the post. And I said, well, if you think you'll find somebody better than me to run your corporation, go ahead and advertise the post. I got. And I went to the minister, Minister Said Musa, and I said, Minister, this is what is happening. I need a license to do my own radio station. Right? I need to survive. Right? Because now that's, even though it looks so negative, it's consistent with my dream. My dream is
Yeah.
to have my own radio station, so this is the opportunity. Why not? Right? And so I was promised my license. I said, okay, I have nothing more to say. I will move out and start my own radio station. Now, I had, why the name Love? You want to know why the name Love?
Of course, yes, please.
Why did you call it love?
Why did I call it love?
Yeah.
Because love is the most powerful feeling a human being can have. Right? If you, love inspires you. You know, love keeps things going. You love yourself, you love God, you love your country, you know, you love your neighbor as you love yourself. You love yourself. Love is the opposite side of hate. Now, if somebody is hurting you and doing you something, you have two choices, right? Which is basically, I had two choices. One is to look for revenge, right? Because you do me this, spend my time to try to figure how I'll get revenge for you. And the other opportunity I have is really to forgive and love. So I either love you or I hate you. But hate is negative. What's that? But hate is negative. Love is positive. Hate does not have energy. Hate you just hate. Right? But love push you forward. You know? So you had to go through a whole lot of things. And I knew my station had to be named Love. Right? Because of what I was feeling at the time. Right? So Love FM. Right? Because FM was the in thing. And then we say, thanks for choosing love, because you have two ways you can go. You can choose to go negative, you can choose to go positive. The positive side is love. So if you choose to go positive, well, then we tell you thanks for going positive, you know, thanks for choosing love. You know? So the whole feeling of the station, it should be a station that build Belize, you know, but not a station that would gossip and try to negatively impact anything in any way, criticize this one or take sides or anything. It had to be a station that would serve the people of Belize and be there, first of all, serving God and country, Belizeans, and down the line. You know, it had to be a station of service, dedicated in service. And so that's how Love FM was born. The concept of Love FM, which was that same thing that 7-year-old kid had,
Love
which
for
it took forever, and took a whole long journey till it was achieved. Finally, when I was 42 years old, is when we opened Love FM. So it took all those years of you know, going through this, going through that, but every problem you go through should strengthen you, because nothing cannot happen to you unless it has negative and positive in it, right? It doesn't matter how bad the situation is, but many times we are overwhelmed by the negatives, and then we get carried down by the negatives, because it's easy to be carried down by the negatives. Very, very easy. It's hard to be positive when there are many negatives. But if you want to succeed, you got to be positive. You got to look into everything and see, hey, what's good in this? It might take you a while to find it. You might have to cry. You might have to, because I cry a lot. One time I was starting with him, I used to cry, right? Because I didn't know what next. I was like, where will the next plate of food come from? You know, you sit down and you cry, because it's like, what will I do? You know, what's out there for me? You know, and so, but then you look and say, there must be the good in this. This is what's pushing me towards my mission. This is what's pushing me towards my goal. If I fall long, I have to get up one more time, because success consists of getting up one more time than you fall. I can't stay down there. I got to get up. I got to move on. You know, and what have you. And most important, I got to forgive, because if I did not forgive the hurt, doesn't mean I forget it, but if I did not forgive the hurt that was bestowed on me in my last days at the BC, I was never fired, you know, never fired, right? And when I left my board gave me the highest bonus gratification. They expressed, because when they found the truth out, when the truth finally came out, that what was trying to happen was political mischief. They said, stay, man, stay, please, we will revoke all that and you stay. I said, no, I started to cry then. That's when I really cried for true. In front of people. They put me up on the table and I cried, shake and get up and I look at it. I said, man, you are playing 25 years of my life from this table and you're not doing that again. I don't know what's waiting for me after I gone. Right?
Yeah.
You know, and so I went, so I went out there. But the thing is that you have to see the opportunity in everything negative that happens to you, right? But you won't see it, and I think I started with the forgiveness part of it. You won't see it unless you forgive. Because if you don't forgive, you can't let go. And you have to remember, especially in this society we live in, where people don't necessarily learn to forgive, when you forgive somebody, you are forgiving yourself. Because you have unburdened yourself from worrying about that particular problem. You have taken that problem and you have put it away. Right? So, yes, I forgive you, you hurt me, I forgive you. It means that, yeah, you could go. I also, because I make you go, I have taken it out of me too, and I could progress towards something else. Because I know the deal with worry about you no more. Yeah. So forgiveness is very important.
As you said, it's built around love, forgiveness, and all of that. I think you briefly went to school for pastoring, right?
No, I did not, I did not, but when we were in Puerto Cortes, particularly between the ages of 14 and 16, 15, 16, 17, 16, 17, sorry. In those years, I would go to church every Sunday. I would go and open the church, ring the bell, take the collection, conduct the Sunday school, and I don't think that's what you call it. The exposure to preaching. I did that.
So I think that background in the church definitely helped to build the core values of Love FM and what you stand for.
Yes, I'm sure it did. I'm sure
definitely.
My mother is perhaps the most influential person in my life. Actually, I take my inspiration from my grandfather, her father, who was Reverend James Elliott, and herself, because Reverend James Elliott wrote this poem that always, every opportunity I get, I talk about this poem, right? Because it's very short, but it's a poem that tells you about life, and the title of it is The Best. If what you have done is all you could, the best, then be content and leave to God the rest. Those are the first few lines. I'll break it down for us as I go along, right? Be content and leave to God the rest. In other words, you do your best. And when you're finished doing your best, then you say, God, it's in your hands. Leave to God the rest. Things fluctuate. No joy, no sorrow stays. Things change around you, right? They fluctuate. Right? You're never happy all the time, you're never sad all the time. No joy, no sorrow stays. Right? Of changing scenes and moods amaze, meaning that the changes sometimes will amaze you. Right? But he or she who learns that in all things there is good, not everything has good in it, in all things there is good, that passing failures, your passing failures are strengthening food. You learn from your failures, my boy. That's what you learn. Right? Passing failures are strengthening food. And when you learn that, you will climb the hill. Though your defeats confessing, I say, I'm going to beat me for true, but I can see right? Though your defeats confess, you climb the hill, and you push through all it to sweet success. And that's a formula for life for young people. Young people would, to me, that once you have that formula, you have maybe the secret of life, If what you've done is all you could the best, then be content and leave to God the rest. Understand that things fluctuate. No joy, no sorrow stays. After changing scenes and the moods amaze. But he who learns that in all things there is good, that passing failures are but strengthening food, will climb the hill, though his defeats confess. and push through everything to sweet success. Push through all to sweet success. You know, and so that's guided me.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a very powerful poem. Yes.
Very much so.
I think so too. So that would be my advice to any young person. You know, and never give up on your dream. You know, never give up on your dream. Don't let anybody tell you it don't work. You know, because I remember when they told me a private station in Belize, that will never work. Never. I said, okay. As long as you could say it, as long as I don't believe it. You know, I don't believe it. I don't because in my mind, I know a rest till I make it happen. Right? And thank God it happened because Love Forever is completely private.
Yeah.
Well, now, how does it feel that you now are the CEO of many other radio stations, one of them including Love? How did it make you feel? How does it make you feel now that you sit on this pedestal with multiple radio stations, that you finally reached the success that you wanted as a child?
Okay. It's a great feeling. Well, let me tell you, qualify here, that I don't see myself sitting on a pedestal. I see myself really as a servant to these stations. In other words, what we have created here is bigger than I am. Right? I'm a servant to all of this. Right? I serve all of this. I mean, the interest of what's happening with this organization is even above my own personal interest or feelings or whatever. As long as the right thing is being done, right? The main thing is to do the right thing. So yes, the feeling is a great feeling to look back and look at an organization for 29 years that you have created from nothing, right? Because 29 years ago, this was just an idea bubbling in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
Look back over it and see the history of it, see that it has served the country well, you know, in times of hurricanes, national emergencies, in whatever timing, whether it's be New Year's countdown, Ruta Maya, holiday celebrations, September celebrations, we have done our part the best way we can to serve our people and to be of service. And so God takes care of the rest. You know? That's to go back to that same formula. You just do your best and God takes care of the rest. But the feeling is a feeling of elation. It's a feeling of joy, of course. And perhaps one of the bigger ones is to know that this organization employs, 70 plus people. And we have been very sound over the past, I can't remember 20 years or so. The people that are here are very solid people. They're good people. They're good citizens of Belize, right? And who have passed through our doors. Some of them have gone on to be prominent citizens. So it feels good. And the big one thing is that I could sit here and I could get up and I go home and everything will happen even if I'm not around. You know, I don't need to be around here for it to work anymore, right?
Yeah.
The people, the staff we have, they are competent people, and my son is heading the organization, my daughter is heading the sales and what have you, so both of them, and they take care of things. I'm maybe just an overseer, but my happiness is, you know, you start something, you see it get bigger than you, you know, and that is a nice feeling to sit here and be able to say, well, you know.
To sit here and see how far the thing you've created has come, how far everything, how from where it started to how it is now.
How it is now. Yeah.
From a seed to an entire tree.
An entire tree.
Providing shade for many people.
that is the satisfaction, and it is something where you feel it internally. You know, it's hard to externalize that feeling. It's just something you sit down and you say, you know, I've done my best, and I leave to God the rest. you know, that's how you look at it. But then it's not over yet, you know. At least, you know, I don't think I have any intention of retiring altogether. You know, I don't think I will retire at all, as a matter of fact. I enjoy what I'm doing, so I've picked up Belize Watch now on a full-time basis again, you know, and other little things, you know, and helping in other bodies like the Boy Scouts, like Galen University, Honorary Council for Peru, and I can't remember all the things I do. Colby Foundation, you know, different areas that I will assist in from time to time, you know. But Rotary, of course, I've been governor for my Rotary Club, which is about the highest post you could hold in a district, you know. So, yeah, it's been good. God has been good, but all that is attributed to God.
Yes, definitely. So you did your best with creating the station. God took the rest, and He definitely created a legacy that is ongoing. Because I can remember listening to the news coming on at my grandma's house. I can remember also being so elated to see my birthday being posted up on the TV for Love FM, so the whole country can know that it's my birthday. Your station has definitely impacted so many people.
Thanks.
Yes.
We try. We yeah, and we have done our best, huh?
So what are you thinking for the future?
In the future, I would hope this would continue, and I know it has to keep on changing and evolving. I was doing some comparison in my mind the other day. I said when we started, we were worrying about cassette tapes. We were worrying about records and what have you. I look at my grandchildren and maybe I could look at Tyler and you too and say, do you all know what a record is? You know, because the technology has changed so fast, you know. We had spool tapes, then we had mini discs, then we had compact discs, then MP3s, then you name it, and it keeps moving, it keeps evolving, you know. And so as a station, we have to keep changing or reinventing ourselves all the time, you know, change with the technology. Facebook is perhaps the biggest changes. And so we've had to adapt to all of that, to how do we fit as a media, a traditional media in a Facebook world.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of thing. So there are many challenges. So to answer the question, yes, we expect to keep evolving and to keep changing accordingly, you know. There's one thing we cannot replace. If a national disaster, heaven forbid, would ever hit this country again like a hurricane, and so then all that media might not work. The only thing that might end up working and staying on the traditional media, you know. So you cannot really discard the traditional media and say, okay, it's finished, you know, because at the end of the day, it might end up being all you got left, you know, because it's so basic, you know. But the radio is a small little thing. Radios are very, very tiny now. You can carry them anywhere, you know, and it's far easier to get a radio signal out than it is to get a TV signal or an internet signal or, you know, any other signal out to anywhere. So, you know, you still need that traditional media base.
Yes, sir.
For want of putting in a different way. So this will have to keep evolving, like I said, changing with the times, but at the same time remembering that there's always a place for at least a good traditional media house. You know, that can serve the entire country at the same time. Yeah.
After we hear from our partners, Villanueva shares how the media landscape has changed over the years.
The National Gas Company, fueling Belize forward. The National Gas Company makes sure that you not only have a guaranteed supply of gas for every household need, but also that it is of the highest quality at all times. Shell Belize has been fueling Belize for many, many years, and they have done that reliably and with a lot of dependability. DeBarry stores in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio, Orange Walk, and San Pedro, offering you much more for much less. DeBarry. Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited project became a reality because Belizeans believed in the project and invested in its development, construction, and implementation. Equity financing for the project featured investments from local enterprises as well as one foreign investor. The public-private partnership structure of the project facilitated government's ownership of a 25% stake at no cost to the taxpayers. Debt financing for the project featured the successful launch of Belize's first ever project bonds, some $30 million financed by a cross-section of institutional investors. Investments came from credit unions, notably St. Francis Xavier Credit Union and Holy Redeemer Credit Union, insurance companies, pension funds, and commercial banks. In addition, the project managed to successfully secure some $12 million in debt financing from the IDB Invest. The IDB's participation in this debt financing is a testament to their belief in the environmental, social, and governance principles taken on by the developers of this project. This project is a testament to the growth and development of Belize's financial system. It shows confidence of Belizean investors to put their money behind homegrown and developed projects that contribute to our national development. I am proud of this project and I'm hopeful that there are many more like it to come.
The National Gas Company of Belize, fueling Belize forward.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel.
Earlier you mentioned about how you were the second private radio station, correct?
Yes, second private radio station
So
in Belize.
what does that look like now in general?
Well, there are many radio stations in Belize now.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to say that we went from having one, which was the old Radio Belize Government Department of Broadcasting, to too many, right? Because the stations today, a lot of them serve a particular interest. They're either church-based,
Mm-hmm.
politically based, or have a leaning to something or the other, and particularly in their early days. There are a few who carry the middle of the road policy, which is perhaps the best one. In fact, that serve either party, and so there's the mainstream media as well. So it has grown from that one station into so many today. But the history of it really puts it into context when you think that in the 1930s, people were straining to hear a radio signal. It was only an AM signal, amplitude modulation, or a shortwave signal. But there was only this effort that was made by a group of Belizeans, amongst them Colonel Fairweather and my godfather George McKeesey, to provide Belize with radio. They would take the telecommunications transmitter that they had to send messages to the United Kingdom, to Great Britain, and convert and take the same news that they would get on that telecommunication system, convert the transmitter into an AM transmitter, and then they would broadcast the same news that they got back over the wireless. And those were the humble beginnings of radio in Belize. For a while, for a long time, Radio Belize was the only signal in town. ZIK2, it became known. That was what it was called. Then after World War II and after the countries around us started to get independence and what have you, and so on, the British decided, okay, let's strengthen the radio station, and so they poured money into the radio station, bought new AM transmitters, and And after upgrading the signal, called it BHBS. BHBS, make a guess as to where that stands for. BHBS.
BHBS.
Uh-huh. Let me tell you then.
Right.
The British Honduras Broadcasting Service. British Honduras Broadcasting Service. That's what it was named. BHBS. I can remember listening to BHBS as a young boy, right? When I used to sit in front of the radio and wonder, how did they get those little men in the radio? Right? It was BHBS that I listened to. British Honduras Broadcasting Service. This is the British Honduras Broadcasting Service. You know, so then in 1964, thereabouts when we got self-government, they turned the station over to the local government, same BHBS, and the name was changed from BHBS to Radio Belize, back to its original name, Radio Belize. Right? When I said, I came to Radio Belize, BHBS, back to Radio Belize. Right? And that, it was the only radio station allowed in the country. Now, prior to that, the Radio Belize, when it was BHBS, the colonial government would not allow the People's Movement, which was a movement clamoring for the independence of Belize, access to the airwaves readily. Like Mr. Price would recall that when he would be on, that there was somebody waiting to cut the signal if he said something that he should not, they think he should not have said. So it was heavily censored because that's what the only thing you could listen to. And so when that service was passed on to the locals, onto to Belize, pretty much the same happened. Not that somebody was waiting to cut the signal, but the ruling party did not allow the opposition airtime very freely and readily. So you find that the opposing views were kept at bay. And the only time sometimes the opposition could get full airtime is when they broadcast the House meetings. then I think the late Honorable Philip Golson would talk maybe for hours because expounding because he has a clear-cut platform there. So you have to keep one side off the airwaves, the opposing side off the airwaves, as much as possible. And so who became chief broadcasting officer obviously had to do that. All right? And what have you. And that's what I was explaining to you earlier. When the parties changed, they said, well, you got to go and that kind of thing there because, no, you kept me off the airwaves. It's my turn now, you know, so you got to go. Right? For a while, the single station operated right through until 1989, when the PUP won in 1989 and Radio Creme was created, right? And that became the first private station. The BCB was created around the same time, or a little after, meaning that government freed up the government system then. In other words, what the government did was encourage the creation of a private radio station, and at the same time freed up the radio the Radio Belize and allow both sides to be on it, right? By putting it in the hands of a board of directors. Now, why I paid the price that I was explaining to you is because I believe that both sides should have always been on it, right? But I don't set the policy, I just implement it, right? And so when we managed to finally free it up and now could put on both sides, the government they now used to hearing the opposition being featured prominently in the news. You understand? It's like you put on the radio, you hear, leader of the opposition, Manuel Esquivel, today visited so and so, visiting so and so, he said so and so, and the government said, but the people at the station, you know. You know, and what have you. So I think that was part. That's how I sensed it was happening, and so I knew that because I don't know what was expected of me. I think they must be expecting me to stay there and just no. I had to play it the right way. I had to do the right thing, which was to allow both sides access.
Yeah, because then if they're being biased, then people won't be able to hear everyone's opinion.
Yeah, so I had to allow that, and that's why I was squeezed out of the BCB, right? Because of that.
Well,
right?
I think that's the best way to be squeezed out. That's
so
how
I did Love FM, and I made sure that Love FM in its mission statement says, while we agree that our staff could be members of any political party, we will not in any of Love FM program endorse a political party and say vote this or vote that, but we'll accept political advertisements on an equal opportunity basis. We sell airtime. That's how we make our living. We sell airtime to commercial entities. And we want to thank here, and it would be remiss of me not to say thank you to all our advertisers. We have most of the businesses in Belize choose to advertise and Love them because of its reach, its prominence, and what have you, and what it delivers. The policy for me, what I'll judge something on when it comes to me is simple. As a good Rotarian, I love the Rotary 4-way test. And the Rotary 4-way test, once you deal with the Rotary 4-way test, it's hard to go wrong. Is it the truth? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
So from your 29 years of broadcasting at Love FM, what is the biggest lesson you have learned?
The biggest lesson would be that you never give up. that you continue regardless of what. You continue moving forward, right? But you continue moving forward, and as you reflect on your movement, you know it's a movement towards goals. And you keep changing the goals. You reach this goal, you put another one. You reach here, you put another one, right? And another goal, right? And then you go on till you reach your goals. Because your goals, in my mind, should always be placed in love. Love for what you have. Love of country, love of broadcasting, love of God. Those are, the love is what inspires you to put your goals, to lay out your goals, right? And then when you set out your goals inspired by love, you have faith that you will achieve those goals. So faith really inspires you to keep moving towards your goal, right? Because you place your goals in faith, inspired by love. And then there is hope. Hope keeps you chugging along, moving along all the time. I hope, and you keep hoping, and you keep the hope keep fueling you because you hope to reach it, right? And you keep moving.
What will be your message to young Belizeans that are listening or watching this?
Tyler, that message is a simple message, a message to young Belizeans. In life, and let me draw an analogy in saying this.
Yeah.
If I would give you a vehicle filled with fuel, and I tell you, drive this vehicle, and you don't know where you want to go in this vehicle, what happens? You drive wrong and wrong, and you go nowhere, right? Because you don't know where you're going, right? You drive up Albert Street, you drive Reading Street, you don't know where you want to go, right? That's your life. You don't know where you want to go. Let's say that vehicle is your life. But if you decide, I have this vehicle with fuel, I have this, and I want to go to Belmopan. Let's just use Belmopan as an objective, as a goal. I want to go to Belmopan. I know I want to go to Belmopan, right? And you get into your vehicle, God gave you it, your life, and you head towards Belmopan, right? Now, going to Belmopan doesn't mean because you said, I want to go to Belmopan, you'll be in Belmopan right away. Boom.
Yeah.
Right? You have to get in the vehicle. When you get in the vehicle, you have to start driving. And then as you are driving and moving towards Belmopan, you have speed bumps. You have traffic policemen. You have other vehicles on the road. You have all sorts of things that can determine the amount of time you will take to get to Belmopan or the obstacles in the road. But when you reach the first speed bump, you not turn back. You go over it. When you reach the second turn, you not turn back. You go over it. Right? There'll be times when you have to overtake. And when you overtake, right, you have to look in your rear view mirror. But the rear view mirror is a small little mirror. So you look in that, and you continue looking on the road ahead of you. Right? And then you, because you realize that it's safe to overtake, then you overtake. But the one thing you cannot do is to drive your vehicle looking back way. Moving the vehicle forward, but then you're looking back way. You got to look in the direction that the vehicle is heading. Right? Or else you'll crash. So it's the same thing with life. You have to look in the direction you're going. Now, if on the road to Belmopan you decide, I will stop on the roadside and say hello to some friends and this and that, and I will just waste some time here and what have you, then it takes you 2 hours. Well, that's 2 hours subtracted from the time you reach Belmopan. That's 2 hours subtracted from your goal. Right? In short, what I'm trying to show you is that you keep your eyes on your goal and on the road to your goal. Right? You don't move towards your goal looking back way. But you have to understand that you have to look back way every now and then, because then you wouldn't know how to overtake what's in front of you. But you don't dwell in the past. And that's where the forgiveness part of it comes in. Right? If there's somebody who hurt you, you forgive them and you move on. You don't try to move your life forward and hold on to craziness. Right? You know, you have to drop that. So, and you concentrate on where you are going. That's where you are going. And so eventually you reach Belmopan. Right or wrong?
Yes,
You reach Belmopan and you might still have fuel in the tank for ride wrong and maybe go on to Cayo. Right? Or to San Ignacio. You know? But if you did not know where you want to go, and if you do not know what you want to do with your life, then you'll be just like the first description I gave of the vehicle. Just drive around. Eventually,
Feel done.
vehicle shut down, vehicle done. And what have you done? Nothing. So
Yeah.
I say that to say that it's important, and that's just one of it, that you set goals. And when you set your goals in life from a very young age, you keep moving towards the goal, understanding that there's no straight road to the goal. And not because you set it and reach it right away. You know?
You say.
From 7 years old to 42 years old, how long that?
Long.
Okay. You know? It doesn't mean that you will reach there right away. And even at 42, you still, you know? So that would be my advice, you know? Set your goals, know what you want to do, and if you don't know where your goals are, then you look inside yourself. All right? Look at you, first and foremost. What is inside you? Because it's all about you. And remember that whatever you think is what you are and what you will become. If you think that you are no good, then I'm sorry, you're not good. If you think you're good, then you're good. Everything is what you think. You are who you think you are. Not what anybody else think, who you think you are. So you have to hold yourself in high esteem, because the good Lord said, love your neighbor as yourself. You never say more than yourself, you say as yourself. So it stands to reason that you have to love yourself, and you have to set your own goals in life and keep moving towards them. But the goals are found inside of you. Examine inside of you what you like most and put that as your goal. And I guarantee you, once you find a goal and you start moving towards it, you'll never work for anybody in your life, you know, except for yourself. Last thing I'll say, yeah, I'll leave you with this one. Henry Ford, you know, Ford vehicles, and
Yes, sir.
he come up with the vehicle concept and what have you. He says, if you think you can, you are right. If you think you can't, you are right too. So guard your thoughts and always think that you can and think positive, right? And always be careful how you're thinking, right? Keep the goal in mind.
Well, excellent analogy you used to describe keeping your eyes on that goal and using your fuel wisely to go towards what you want. And thank you for all of your inspiring words. I'm sure that it will help many young people out there and also people that are older to try to decide, you know, what am I doing in my life? How is my traveling? How is my journey on this road going? So thank you so much, Mr. Villanueva, for taking the time out to talk to us and to give your encouragement to everyone.
I have to thank you and Tyler as well for taking the time out to listen to me and to ask me these questions, you know. I'm happy to have had this opportunity. So I want to thank you all so much and to wish you all the very best and that you set your goals and keep moving towards your goals, right? Faith, hope, and love, remember? Goals set in love, move towards them in faith, right? And hope is the fuel. I hope it will happen. It will happen. It will happen. Hope burns eternally, right? You know, and you'll reach it. All right? So thank you so much as well. All right? And I guess if before I leave, maybe you all could join in with me if you don't mind. You know, maybe at the count of three, like a 3, 2, 1, we could say Belize and beyond because they listen to us all over the world. Belize and beyond. Thanks for choosing. I know thank you is a grammatical correct way to say it is thank you. But thanks for choosing love, right? Okay? So, Belize and beyond.
Thanks for choosing love.
Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, and building the future.